Okay, what I'm going to do today is start to build a welding table. I got this 3-inch square tube that's 1/4 inch thick. I don't have the top plate or the wheels yet. And I've decided what I'm going to do is bolt the top plate on with these big 1/2 inch flathead Allen bolts, just so it doesn't get warped. Yeah, I had to order this big countersink at Granger because I couldn't find anyone that was that big anywhere. But now the first thing I need to do is move my car out of the garage. I haven't even drove this since about December, since I'm always working. Yeah, I got my engine hoist reworked to where you can turn the engine around in circles now. Yeah, so what I've done is I cut a bunch of 2x4s and I'm going to lay the top plate down on top of that when I get it. So when I drill the holes from the back side, I can drill all the way through. And I can also get straps under it because it's going to weigh 500 pounds, just that piece. So now I've cut a piece of plywood that's 4x6, and I'm going to lay it on top of there for now, and then I can figure out how I want to cut all the pieces for the frame. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is figure out where the vise has to go, so that the square tube will run right between these bolts. So when I go to mount the vise, it won't come out right on top of it. So I got my, I marked out where the vise goes. The square tube is going to go something like this to the frame to the top. The vise will be mounted to the other side, and then the bolts will go clear the square tube. Okay, I got all the pieces for the frame cut. This will be bolted to the top plate. And what I'm going to do now is drill all the holes in the drill press. It'll be easier, then they'll come out straight before this gets welded together. Well, I got all the pieces cut and I got the holes drilled. I'm not going to weld this stuff together yet until I get that top plate, because I don't know if this piece of wood's perfectly flat. And I'm thinking about welding these pieces on here. Then I could stick pieces of pipe in here and lay pieces of metal across it to cut it with a plasma cutter, so I'm not cutting anything over the table. Yeah, I got a Dan Electro 68 sticker. And the Rick Fixes sticker. Thanks, guys. Well, I just got some used 5/8 plate at a much cheaper price. The only 1/2 inch plate they had was in a 4x10 piece. And it would cost a lot more money because they're going to charge me for the whole entire thing. And this is actually 8 inches bigger than I need, and then I can use the plasma cutter and cut it to where it's much nicer than the way they cut it. Now I just got to figure out how to get it off my truck, and then I can sandblast it. Well, I got it off. Now I'm sweating like a filthy pig. Okay, I got it cut down to size, and I got the corners rounded. So now I'm going to sandblast it, then I'll flip it over, grind it a little bit more, and sandblast the other side. Yeah, I don't know why the guy at the scrap metal yard decided to cut some off of both ends. So my plasma cutter didn't work too well cutting this, so it was about the best I could do. Oh, just sandblasting that much is taking a long time, and it's gotten the air compressor pretty hot. So I think tomorrow what I'll do is put those sanding discs in the angle grinder and go over the whole thing. And hopefully that'll save some time. And how I cut these corners round was I took a welding rod and I bent it and I clamped it to the edge of the table with vice grips, and I just cut around it with a plasma cutter. Well, this is the first time I've used this sanding attachment on my angle grinder. Didn't come with a spanner wrench, so I just had to make one real fast. Well, the 60 grit pads weren't working too well. It's going to take too long. So the only place open today was Harbor Freight. I got these 36 grit pads, but they only had it in 7-inch, so I ended up having to buy the backing plate too. So hopefully this works better, or it might even explode coming from Harbor Freight. Yeah, this seems to be working better with this wire wheel attachment. And I think what I'm going to do after that is go over with the sanding discs, and then I'll sandblast it. I should be able to sandblast it real fast after that. Well, I only got that much of one side sandblasted so far. It's taken a very long time. Yeah, maybe on Monday I'll go to the welding store and see if I can get some better sanding discs. Yeah, I bought a couple of these a while back and I never used them. This really takes the rust off good. I might even be able to finish this tonight with this. Yeah, these things for taking rust off, they're a huge time saver. Yeah, with these sanding discs on the regular grinder, it works good for about 10 seconds on rust and that's it. Yeah, I just put the second one of these in. This side of the top plate seems to be in better shape than the other side, so I'll use this as the top. I think I'm not even going to sandblast it because I'm almost out of sand. I'll just go over with this, finish it, and that's it. Yeah, I just got some more of these at Home Depot. These ones are double wide. And I also found them where you can get them for a 4.5-inch angle grinder. Okay, so the first thing I did was drilled the holes where the vise is going to go. Now I'm going to take, this is going to be the top side. Now I'm going to take this and flip it over and lay it down right here on top of these 2x4s and take this piece of plywood out. And I'll start welding these pieces together. Okay, I got the piece flipped over. And what I've been using is the engine hoist and 2 jacks to do that, which is still not easy. Now I'm going to have to figure out some other way of chaining this so I can lower it down those 2x4s. Okay, I got this piece flipped over and laying on these 2x4s now. Luckily, I'll only have to turn this over one more time because it isn't easy. Okay, now what I'm going to start doing is welding all these pieces together because I know this plate, it's perfectly flat. That's why I didn't want to weld it together on top of that piece of wood. And after I do that, then I'll drill the holes through it. And on this project, I'm going to use my big MIG welder. Normally, most of the stuff I do, I use a small one. But since this is a 1/4 inch thick. Yeah, I took and tack welded this to the top plate on 2 corners just to hold everything where I want it. And I'll weld part of this and I'll drill the rest of the holes. Then I'll take it off of there and grind a groove on the other side and weld that up. Yeah, I'm surprised this drill bit lived long enough to drill all those holes to that 5/8 plate. The first drill bit I broke drilling the first hole for the vise. And now I put all these bolts in here backwards just to hold everything where I want it. And what I'm going to do is weld most of this and then I'll take it off and weld the other side. Yeah, one of the problems with this welder is when you have it turned up that high, you can burn the tip up real easy. So it's best if you can stand it up where I can do these other places and it'll make it much easier. And every one of the welds on this I'm making 2 passes, so it's going to be real strong. Yeah, about the only thing I got done to it tonight was I got 2 of the legs welded on. The other 2 legs got to be 4 inches taller because the casters are going to be 7 3/4 of an inch high, and the wheels only have 5.5 inches to the ground because they're going to be 12 inches. So from the bottom of a 1-inch axle, you'd only have 5.5 inches. Okay, I just got the other 2 legs welded on. They're just tack welded right now. And the reason this piece is welded on all the way at the top is the axle is going to run right across here. So next what I'm going to do is weld a bar across from here over to this side before I finish welding that so nothing works. Okay, I got that bar welded across the back. And what I did to hold it is I just clamped angle iron on here because this piece is real heavy. Yeah, now I can go ahead and finish welding these 2 legs on and this bar on the back. Well, I got everything welded. It's gotten so heavy that I can't even pick it up anymore. And with the welder turned up this high, it's real easy to burn the tips up. So I figured out the only way to not do that is to have all the welds pointing straight up when you weld it. Well, so far everything's come out right. Normally it seems like I measure something once and I end up having to cut twice. Tomorrow I'm going to make pieces that are going to go across from here up to here. And there's also some gussets that I'm going to have to make. And then I'll just be waiting on the wheels to get here Tuesday. Yeah, I just got the wheels. They ended up coming in a few days early. And this is going to be the rear ones. I usually like to put bigger wheels on one end because then it's easier to roll it up the concrete when there's a little edge on it. Okay, and the first thing I did to making these other pieces is I took a 2x4 and cut it so I could get my angles right first. And then I'll mark it on a piece of metal, just so I'm not making a bunch of different cuts trying to get it right. Yeah, about all I got done to it tonight was the 2 front pieces welded on. Well, I had to work today, so I didn't get much done on the welding table. I got all but one of the gussets in there. So this thing should be real strong. And I welded this little piece on here, and this is for the ground clamp to go to. I'm going to paint everything except this and the top surface of the table. Well, I got all the welds finished, and I got the front Castor Mounts done. Yeah, that was the only thing I could find at the scrap metal yard, was 3/4 of an inch thick and a small piece. Well, I almost got the frame finished. Yeah, I just welded the axle on, so that's why I haven't put the wheels on yet. It's still hot. And this bar back here, after watching one of Greg Porter's videos, I decided to do this. This unbolts, and it's going to bolt to the top, back side of the top plate. Put sheet metal in to bend it. And I just made it so it bolts here while I'm not using it. That way I don't accidentally cut it up for another project. Yeah, I always weld my initials on everything I build. Yeah, about the only thing I want to do to it still, to the frame, is I want to build someplace with a foot pedal that'll come back, I mean for the TIG, where it'll sit in an angle about like that. Yeah, and this is about 38 inches high. I made it that high because when I'm sitting on a 30-inch stool, I'll fit under it. Well, I got this piece made for the foot pedal for the TIG. I just need to go buy one more piece of angle iron to run across in the front. It's pretty strong right now. This is what it looks like when the foot pedal's in there. Okay, I got the frame completely finished. And what I've done is I've ground off a little bit of the paint on in a couple places on the top plate and here on the frame, just so to make sure it makes good contact. And here's that place for the foot pedal for the TIG. Now all I got to do is flip the top plate over and put it on and do the countersinks. Yeah, and I just painted all this only with rattle cans. It's just not necessary to spray this with a spray gun since it's a welding table and it's going to get screwed up anyways. Yeah, this is how I just moved the top plate. Okay, I got all the countersinks done. The countersink wasn't quite big enough, so I had to grind a tiny little bit off the head of the bolt. Now what I'm going to do is drill the holes for this piece of angle iron to bolt to the top. And after I do that, I think I'm going to sand the top off one more time before I put the vise on it. Okay, and this is what it looks like when that piece of angle iron is mounted to the top. And I got the holes are offset, so you can get a bigger piece of sheet metal on this side than the other side. And if you have to put something great big in there, you can take the metal bolt out. Yeah, I got the welding table finished. This table weighs about 1,300 pounds. Every single part on it's American made. Even the wheels. It rolls real nice with these casters. Yeah, these front wheels are supposed to be able to take 1,500 pounds a piece, and the rear is supposed to be able to take 3,200 pounds. They weren't cheap.